Declan Quigley of Anamnaski Shamanism. I've been a shamanic practitioner for the last 10 years.
My name is Eileen McCourt. I'm a spiritual author and teacher.
So Eileen, what do you see as the nature of God?
God is energy. And there is one energy, one universal God consciousness, one universal God energy, and we are all incorporated in that. Everything that is, ever has been, ever will be, is in the energy of God.
That very much maps my own understanding of God. And I know a lot of people don't like to use the word God because it's been used in so many different types of ways. However, my understanding as a shamanic practitioner is that there is a web of energy,
Yes.
and we are a small element of that web.
And there's one web.
And one web.
Yes.
And that one web is
It's
God.
God.
And that is the shamanic understanding of it. And the Native Americans would have the same belief in that they called it the weave of Grandmother Spider. And we were a thread in that weave.
Declan, I think too, the most important thing, and what I'm trying to get through in my books, is we've got to get things out of people's head before we get the truth in. Because for me, there's a blockage there, most people, a blockage and a hurdle they can't get over. We have been programmed since we were young, and it has been instilled into us to see God as a person, a male person, somewhere up there in the clouds with a stick waiting to punish us. And that's the image we've grown up with, and that is a stumbling block. If we keep that in our image, we're not going to get anywhere in our spiritual path. I think the first stage in anybody's spiritual path is getting rid of that image of what God is not. He is not a male person. God has no form. God is formless. He has no eyes, no face, no teeth. Okay, and what we've been brought up to believe is actually contradictory. On the one hand, we've been told that God is this all-merciful Father, loves his children and forgives us everything. On the other hand, we've been told that God punishes us in hell. Now, those two are totally contradictory. They can't both be right.
Again, I would agree with that, and it's very much the shamanic belief in that we are here as part of an ecosystem, an overall system, and we have to play out our part within that.
Yes.
And from the shamanic perspective, it's about our soul experience, and our soul experience is God's experience.
Yes. And each one of us is, if you like, a microcosm of the macrocosm. That is the whole great God energy. For example, if you dip your finger in the ocean and take out a droplet of water in your finger, in that little tiny droplet of water is contained all the elements of the entire ocean. But it's not the entire ocean, but it contains all the elements of it. But it's not the ocean in the ocean's entirety. So each one of us, we contain all the elements of the God energy. But we on our own are not the entirety of the God energy. Now, where do we go to look for God? Well, I just said there, we are the God energy. So why do we feel we've got to go and look for something if we already are that for which we are searching? Wouldn't you agree, Declan? We don't need to look for God in the clouds because he is not a he anyway. He is not there. So where do we find him?
So are you saying that neither of those are right?
I'm saying, that's right, yes, neither of those is right. God is neither a forgiving God nor any of the other images we've been given about him. And he's not a forgiving God. Why not? And I know I've raised many eyebrows by this, but he's not a forgiving God because there is nothing to forgive. And why not? Because karma takes care of everything. God is formless. It's like if you imagine the wave and the ocean. The wave is only in the ocean because the ocean has thrown it up. When you look at the wave, you see the wave and you see the ocean. You don't see them separate. We have been taught to see God as a separate entity from ourselves, something outside of ourselves, which means we see him as a separate identity, which God is not. The wave develops as a wave, whatever way it wants to develop. It crashes, It disappears as a wave, but it's still in the ocean. And if you look too at the shapes in the fog, the shapes in the fog are only there because the fog is there. The fog has thrown them up. The shapes disappear and reform, but they're always within the fog. So the fog, when you see the shapes of the fog, you see the fog. When you see the wave in the sea, you see the sea. When you see us, you see God. We are God in manifestation.
No, absolutely. I mean, that definitely would be my view of things. I would look into the eyes of someone, I would see God in there. But in the shamanic view, in the animistic view, God is in absolutely everything, not only in people or animals, but also in inanimate objects.
Yes.
Yes. God is a part of that, the energy of God.
In everything.
And our soul. As I see it, our purpose for being here is to expand our soul. And when we expand our soul, we expand the nature of God.
Right.
And we expand the universe that we live in.
We are co-creators of the God energy.
Absolutely.
And we are God, and the only thing God does, the God energy creates.
Yes.
And we co-create with Him.
That's
we
right.
manifest as God in physical form.
Absolutely. That's very much my viewpoint on it. You know, we expand and we create through experience,
Yes.
through negative and positive experiences. And as a result, everything keeps moving and keeps cycling.
Yes. But we've got to get into our heads that God is not a physical person.
Absolutely.
And He's not out to punish us.
Absolutely. I think you're coming into the terms that you use quite a lot in your books, and that's taking responsibility.
Yes, each one of us must take responsibility for our own soul evolution, for our own spiritual journey. And the first stage on that is to get out of our heads this story about God being a physical person up there and a man and a punishing God. We've got to get that out of our head before we can get the truth into our head, Declan.
Absolutely.
And we can't progress on our spiritual path until we realise the nature of God and the nature of ourselves, which we'll talk about next week.
Absolutely. And I think this, as the Hopi people in America and the Maya predicted, this is the age of awakening.
That's
and
right.
I think that's what we're seeing.
And there is a great awakening going on, Declan. You can feel it every day.
Absolutely.
More and more people
Absolutely.
are becoming aware. And the thing is, you can't awaken anybody. They've got to awaken within themselves. You can put the stuff in front of them and they can accept or refuse. But I feel that there's a very great responsibility and obligation on people like us to make sure that they are presented with the truth.
Absolutely.
We just can't sit in this and keep quiet. We've got to get it out there.
No, that's the nature of the work that we do.
That is right. That is what
putting
we do.
that spark out there. If people accept it, so well and so good.
But they've got to be presented with it.
But they've got to be presented.
And given the choice.
And they've got to be given the reality of it as well.
Yes.
You know, they've got to be given, look, this is about you. You take responsibility. You do it. There isn't anyone overseeing you who will punish you if you don't.
There's no external force watching over you. There's no external force going to bring you to heaven. You've got to get to each level on your own.
Absolutely. Well, that's a very attractive package we've been offered by religions.
Oh yes,
you know,
very attractive.
We're given this and this to do, and therefore everything will be solved after that.
Yes.
So
join our club, obey our rules, pay your money, and we'll get you into heaven. But it doesn't work that way. We each must take responsibility for ourselves. And in that package too, remember, Declan, there is hell and there's heaven and there's limbo. Do you remember limbo? Remember we talked about limbo?
Oh, I do very much so. You know, I think that was
cruel.
part of my early trauma. I had a brother who was born before me, but born dead. And at that time, the early 60s, it was that his soul was presumed not to go to God.
Yes.
So he was buried outside the local cemetery.
Yeah.
And that's my father's house.
Yeah, and limbo, there was no burning in limbo. They wouldn't burn. But what were they going to do? I often wonder, what did the babies do for all eternity? You know, heaven was bliss and hell was burning for all eternity. But surely, Declan, when you burn something, there must come a stage when there's nothing else left to burn. How could we burn for all eternity? There we are burning away. But we can only burn for so long, can't we?
Well, I suppose, I mean, they're talking about energy and they're talking about the soul, not the body. It's difficult to know where they were coming from because
Yes, it is.
it's a very extreme view and one that is littered with cruelty.
Yeah, and the reason why we were given that view was to keep us under control by frightening us. The two tools were fear and guilt.
Yeah.
But limbo was really particularly horrific. Wasn't it? Imagine telling a mother who just lost a child that child would be in limbo, would never see God. Was that cruel, or what was it? That was cruel.
Particularly
Wasn't it?
vicious, I think. So, Eileen, for those who are beginning their spiritual path, could you sum up how you feel the nature of God is?
Yes, very simply. Those who wish to begin their spiritual path need to get out of their head the idea that God is an external controlling God, a male figure up in the sky who's going to punish us. That has to go out first of all. And then you've got to replace that with the fact that God is the one great universal God consciousness, the one great universal God energy, and we are all part of that energy. There is no external force controlling us or telling us what to do. We are the God energy. And we don't need to go and look for God anywhere, because why would you look for something if you already are that for which you're looking? That, I think, sums it all up. Would you, anything to add to that? Well, there's no external God, and if we can get that out of our heads, there's nobody external, no external being who's waiting for us to stumble and punish us or put us down to hell, and there's no God going to come in the sky on the last day. That's another thing that's put into us. A final judgment. There's going to be no final judgment. There's no judgment ever.
I would completely agree with that, you know. I'm just echoing the point that we made earlier, you know, this is about taking responsibility.
Yes.
This is about you taking responsibility of the path you're on, your actions, and the way you carry out your life.
Yes, each one of us is responsible for our own soul evolution.
And that being the nature of God.
Yep.
We are God at
We
that
are
point.
God. Our natural inherent essence is the God essence.
Thanks for watching.
Next week, Declan and I will be talking about the nature of life, why we're here on this earth, where we're going, and the whole meaning behind our existence. And we'll be tying that in with the great God energy. So again, I hope you will join us next week, and we look forward to talking again.